TTArtisan reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to review one of their first lenses they ever released, which is this, their 35mm f1.4 crop sensor lens for mirrorless cameras. I have it on a Fujifilm X mount here. Now, this being a 35mm lens for an APS-C crop sensor camera, that makes it basically a 50mm full frame equivalent field of view, which is very standard. It's considered like the standard field of view, not too tight, not too wide, and that's going to be really great for just a wide range of photography. But on top of that, you also get an f1.4 aperture, so you can blur out your backgrounds and isolate your subjects. So that's gonna be very attractive to beginner photographers. The most attractive thing about this being it's under $70. And I think this is really gonna be the kind of thing that a beginner photographer is gonna be looking at when they want to upgrade past their kit lens. They wanna try a prime lens for the first time, but they also don't wanna shell out hundreds or even thousands of dollars for a first party lens for their camera system. They just wanna dip their toes in the water a little bit. It is a fully manual lens, like I said, no autofocus, no electrical contacts on the mount, so it doesn't talk to the camera whatsoever. It doesn't tell you the focal length or what your settings were. It's completely made out of metal, and the focus throw is actually really nice. There's a nice little bit of dampening, but it's not too stiff, and the aperture ring has some nice little clicks. There's clicks at half stops up until f4, and then it goes full stops 5, 6, and f8, skips right over f11 and goes right to f16. They also give you a nice little image of the optical element design on the lens right on the body, so in case you were wondering what the glass in there looks like. One of the things I don't like, which they just kind of took this from more vintage lenses, is it has a screw-on metal lens cap. I constantly drop these on the ground. I'd much prefer just a plastic lens cap. There's a really tiny filter thread size on there. It's only 39mm, so that's going to be one of my gripes. If you ever wanted to use this for video, if you ever want to put filters on this, you're either going to need to use a ton. Sorry, I'm using a manual focus lens for this, which is a little bit of an adjustment. There's not going to be basically any 39mm filter thread sizes, like in terms of ND filters or circular polarizers, which you're going to need if you're filming outside or something, especially at f1.4 if you want to use the blurry backgrounds that this can provide. In terms of image quality, I think this photo of this person on a bike in front of a mural in my local town is a great image. It tells you a lot about this lens. You can see some of the imperfections. This picture is at f1.4, and you can see the darkness around the corners. There's some vignetting. It kind of focuses your eye on the middle of the frame. I don't think it looks bad, honestly. It's not the sharpest because it's at f1.4, but you can also see there's a little bit of barrel distortion. This mural is obviously, you know, a square, but putting it at the edges of the frame, you can see a little bit of bowing on the top, bottom, and the sides. But overall, the color rendition looks nice, and looking at the image as a whole, it's just a pleasing image. There are some noticeable flaws wide open in f1.4. Your images do lose some contrast. The flaring is the worst performance that the lens provides at that widest aperture. You can get some crazy looking flares that aren't necessarily pleasing to look at. You're going to get chromatic aberration, especially if you have a harsh lighting scenario. Sometimes it's correctable, sometimes it's not, especially the green fringing. If you have a green background, if you're shooting with, you know, grass around or trees or something in the background, that can limit how much of that green fringing you can get rid of. Sometimes you just can't do it without affecting other parts of your image. But one thing's for sure is the image is definitely not over-corrected. That is something that people look for. You know, sometimes their first party lenses, photography specific lenses, can be extremely sharp and almost clinical to an extent, and if people want a little bit of character, sometimes they go with a vintage lens, or sometimes they just go with these cheaper third-party lenses. If the picture on the front of this lens is correct, there's only 7 elements in this lens, and that's very much more akin to a vintage lens versus a lot of modern lenses having 14, 15 plus elements to iron out any little imperfection, all the chromatic aberration, all the distortions, and sometimes in doing that, it takes out all of the character in the image. The standout feature to me using this as a walk-around lens is that it has an extremely close minimum focus distance of only 0.28 meters, so you can completely blur out your backgrounds. Whenever this is wide open, it's already not perfect, but whenever you go to that minimum focus distance, it kind of exacerbates, whatever the word is for that, makes the issue a little bit worse. So if you stop this down, even f2, f2.8, you get amazing up-close performance, and I would say f2 especially is a sweet spot. F2.8 if even more so. So if you want to get rid of those imperfections of it being wide open, and you just want basically a good image out of this, you just stop it down a stop or two, and it's quite amazing what you can get out of it. Because of the chromatic aberration, point sources of light that turn into bokeh balls when they're out of focus do have the onion ringing around it, and again, that's just another thing that's more akin to vintage lenses. I kind of like it. Sometimes the background blur can be a little bit crazy looking, a little bit jittery. My overall thoughts is that this for sure is more fun than it costs. So by that metric, the lens checks that box. It's almost a good video lens. If you don't care about your video settings, it could be a great video lens, but it's almost a good video lens for professional use. It's just a little bit too small on the filter thread. But overall, I think most photographers out there can have a lot of fun with this for a very cheap price without breaking the bank. They can get a sense of if they like shooting with prime lenses even at all in the first place, or if they want to stick with zoom lenses. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, leave a comment down below. I hope to see you in the next one, guys. Chime in, let me know if you have a TTArtisan lens, if you have one of these older ones or maybe one of their new ones. What do you think about shooting with it? And I hope to see you in the next one, guys. Peace.